poor person life hack you still use even if you're no longer broke. Story 1. When I couldn't afford meat, I used tinned brown lentils as a mincemeat substitute in pasta sauce lasagna sauce. I can now afford mincemeat, but add a tin of brown lentils in to extend the amount. I like the taste too. Story 2. I still buy gently used second-hand clothes, accessories and furniture where possible. I love thrifting and strongly prefer vintage productions. They're often cheaper with higher quality fabrications that would be 3-5x the cost today. Story 3. Honestly, I'm still broke, but a good hack for food is learning to make meals that last all week and freeze well. If you don't have a lot of time to cook, make weekly soups. Secondly, it's a little cheaper to buy 1 pound of hamburger and 1 pound of sausage, mix the two. Sausage is usually cheaper than beef, so you'll save a little money when cooking and come out with way tastier food because sausage gives your dinner's meat a better bite. Story 4. Save all of your vegetable scraps. All the things you cut off of your vegetables when prepping food, freeze them. You can use them all later to create your own vegetable stock, or other things like chicken stock. Just be sure to wash them well. Save your scraps of even meat, like chicken bones. All the stuff you don't like the look of still has good flavor. I know the ends of onions look a little iffy, but you aren't eating them in stock, you're just extracting all the flavor from them. By the time they're finished cooking down, they're going to be basically mush anyways. Homemade stock is so much better for you than store-bought and will save you a lot of money. Likewise, some people will probably pay you for good homemade stock if you feel like selling it. Story 5. Buy food in bulk to limit grocery trips. Meal plan by eating the expirables like bread, eggs, veggies, fruit and milk first, then gradually work my way into the frozen foods and cabinet foods. Rinse and repeat. Prevents meal burnout since it's a pattern of variety and I do much less grocery trips due to stuff expiring. Story 6. Learn to freeze and thaw food, and buy as much of your groceries from Costco as possible. In my opinion, if you learn how to use that volume, you pay about 50 versus the normal store. Story 7. I live near several well-known universities. Life hack: want free or extremely cheap and barely used furniture. Know which apartment complexes the wealthy college students live in and when they move out. Story 8. Free entertainment, beach, hike, hanging out in a third space, general involvement in local community, and having an awareness of free events which are super common. Story 9. Rice, beans, garlic, olive oil and soy sauce for days. Baby, this $10 budget for a week worth of food got me through college, but I'm still doing it once in a while 10 years later. Story 10. Calling my internet and cable company every 6 to 12 months telling them I'm going to cancel. That keeps me at the best price. I have saved in quite a bit amount of money for the same service over the last decade. Story 11. The mist-in stack in the paint store. You'll happily keep checking until a color I love pops up. It's a fun hunt, especially if you've got an idea but aren't absolutely set on precisely one exact color, and there isn't a chance in paying $80 for a gallon on paint. Story 12. If this is a poor person life hack, but for me it's buying groceries in bulk. Also putting bread in the fridge if it's close to expiry and freeze food that can possibly spoil overnight. Story 13. Vote for a left-leaning government. Even when you're not broke anymore, it's still nice that others have a safety net and don't come doing crimes into your neighborhood. Been doing this neat little trick that I inherited from my grandma for many years now and it works really well. Story 14. I still change my own oil, change my own brakes, do my own grocery shopping, and literally today, I spent the day building a retaining wall in my yard. I'm exhausted, no better feeling than a hard day's work. Story 15. I grow my PWN vegetables and herbs. I will never stop doing that. My setup is more expensive now and my tools cost more, but I used to do it because I was broke and I saved the food and stored it for the cold months. Now I still save the food because I get tasty stuff and variety that is not sold. Story 16. I have a plastic bag full of smaller plastic bags. The small plastic bags get used as trash bags, lunch bags, cat litter disposal bags, packing bags for shoes etc. while going on trips and so on. Story 17. Driving a 92 model year car because it still works and I like it. Using paper towels in lieu of napkins, and tearing each paper towel in half because I don't really need a whole paper towel as a napkin. Story 18. Reuse any plastic container for food or other storage, butter, Cool Whip, those containers they use for the salads in the deli. All good to save, why bother buying all those expensive glass storage containers? Story 19. Fat jar in the fridge. Fat can't go in the sink and doesn't work in the trash because the bags can easily get holes in them, so I put my rendered beef chicken fat into a jar and use it for eggs or anything that needs some food lube. Story 20. Still poor, living alone, and here are some poor hacks I stick with and probably will even when I'm better off. I eat the same thing almost every day: oats for breakfast, apples and carrots for snacks, leftovers for lunch, and roast chicken with veggies and rice for dinner. It's cheap, healthy, and nothing goes to waste. The houses around mine have citrus trees, so when they're fruiting I collect mandarins, oranges, lemons and limes. Haven't bought fruit in season for a while now. For laundry, I use vinegar, bicarb soda, and a few drops of lavender oil. Costs me $5.35 for about 2 weeks worth and it works just fine. I water down hand soap, dish soap, and even toothpaste. They last heaps longer and still do the job. I stopped using shampoo and conditioner. I just use a plain bar of soap. My scalp feels less irritated and it saves money. I walk everywhere. Grocery day gets interesting when I've got bags hanging off both arms. But it's free exercise and I don't spend anything on transport. Haven't bought new clothes in over 2 years. I just rotate what I have and fix stuff if it rips at night. I usually light candles instead of using lights. Saves power and gives the place a chill vibe. Planning to start a veggie and herb garden soon. Still getting things together for that one. Story 21. Running some lines of hot glue on the areas of your shoes that get worn out quicker before a long walk or a game of basketball or pickleball etc. will extend the life of your shoes. Epoxy works as well. Story 22. I wear my t-shirts until they are a ghost of a shirt. That's when they become the best summer t-shirts. Between 10 and 15 years of regular wear, it's like not wearing a shirt at all, but you're allowed in stores. Story 23. Do your own brakes. It's easy. Going to save 1,500 tomorrow on rotors pads all around. 3 hours max 500 per hour. Large vehicle. Shop who has never tried to upsell me anything passes all my cars for inspection quoted me 1,950. Parts cost me 450. Story 24. I buy block cheese and slice it or grate it as needed. So much cheaper than buying sliced cheese. Plus the shredded cheese in stores have a coating to keep it from concealing. I now can taste the difference. Buy cloth napkins and dish rags on clearance. I never buy paper napkins. Rarely do I buy paper towels. Story 25. Keeping my paid-off car and repairing it myself rather than buy another. 273k miles on it and just under 2,500 in repairs. If I were to have taken it into a shop for all of the repairs, that number would be closer to 12,000. Story 26. Using plastic shopping bags as trash can liners. I learned later on in life that some people actually purchase plastic bag liners instead of using grocery bags. That's wild to me. Story 27. Researching things then buying for life. It can be pricey, but waiting for sales for the right item to purchase something quality that lasts has saved me a lot of money over the years. And don't wait to buy things you use daily when you run out. Buy them on sale even if you have some toothpaste, TP, soap, etc. Oh, and cheap ramen can be dressed up easily. Well, eggs used to be cheap. Story 28. Check the floor under vending machines for dropped coins. We used to walk by the parking meters after the first snow melt too, but now they're mostly cashless, so no one is dropping coins in the snowbanks. Story 29. I have a full-time job that pays well enough that I could live off it comfortably. But I have 2 side hustles that I maintain. If my main job ever went away, I could easily put more time into the side gigs and not immediately have to start living off my savings. Story 30. Refusing to use services like Uber, DoorDash, Instacart, etc. They are legitimately luxury services, yet people treat them as essential services. You're paying like 20 to 50 more for everything, assuming you're a decent person and tip. It's wild how many people I see at work complaining about how broke they are. Meanwhile they're DoorDashing Wendy's instead of packing lunch. I can afford it now, but the idea of spending $35 ordering a pizza I could pick up down the street for $23 still feels like I'm burning money. Story 31. When I make burger sausage hot dogs, I use regular slices of bread instead of purpose-specific buns. I never thought of it as a poor person life hack until some people lost their minds about it. Like I tried to poison them. On the plus side, now I know to buy the fancy bread when I'm grilling for company, and who not to invite. I am also eating a sausage peasant style as I type this. Story 32. Buying secondhand whenever I can. Most of my wardrobe is from charity shops. Same with books, kitchen items, Christmas decorations, also cutting up worn-out clothes to make cleaning rags. Story 33. 1 tea bag makes way more than 1 cup of tea. Cheap sewing kit to do basic clothing repairs. Use cruise control to maximize vehicle fuel efficiency. Use half the amount of washing powder as recommended and wash in cold water only. Story 34. Make my own liquid laundry detergent and Dawn Power Wash. So easy and so cheap, 5 gallons and 1 gallon at a time for not even close to one-time purchase. Story 35. Not having a car, using the bus and bicycle instead, or just walking if it's less than 5 kilometers, saves me hundreds every month. The parking spot alone would cost $130 per month, not mentioning the fuel at 2L, or insurance, or yearly inspections, or repairs, or the car itself. The car is the most taxed item there is. Story 36. Cheap man's car. Buy basically bacon bits, store-owned cream cheese. Sometimes they have nice flavored ones like garlic and herb and pasta. Veggies can be added too. Takes 10 minutes. Very tasty hot or cold, and a tiny splash of water loosens it up for the next day. Story 37. Started buying ties and books at thrift stores. Over the years looked further and have purchased all kinds of goodies at thrift stores, exercise camping gear, crafting items, tools, etc. Have also purchased new suits with retail tags still attached from thrift stores. Buried treasures at a year-round garage sale. So much fun too. Story 38. Skipping meals. Is lunch really necessary? Now I have money, I don't really want to buy anything. I bought an expensive ring custom made in the UK to commemorate the death of the love of my life, my cat, the most important part of my existence, and I just feel numb. I get no joy out of spending money. Story 39. If I can't buy it on sale, I do without for certain things like Triscuits. I really like them for an easy hearty snack as a base for cheese or tuna salad, but the regular price at the local Safeway is $4.99 a box, which is crazy to me, so when there is a deal currently with a digital coupon it is less than $2 a box, I stock up. Story 40. Rice is poor proof. A bag of rice is so versatile. Can of soup and cooked rice, leftover rotisserie chicken and rice. You can use rice to bulk out so many things. Story 41. I'm still poor, so adjust this to taste. I go to the food pantry first and fill in meals with what I got from there with things I need to purchase. The no longer broke hack for this would be to buy clearance and try to build meals around it. Story 42. Doing the math to get the per gram, kilogram, or pound value of the food I'm buying instead of justifying the price based on looks. Most store tags in Canada have either per 100g or kilogram value on the tag in small print. Then the law of supply and demand, when combined with law of expiration dates, supply and demand dictate quality stuff. Usually a bit too much, which will expire. To cover the cost, they drop the price to make up for the total loss. Means if impatient and observant of what's a cheap price, I get high-quality stuff like steak for 5 to 10 per pound when it can go up to 25 to 50 per pound at times. Also means I never really shop with a list but settle for what I find. But I've learned to enjoy it like a game. Story 43. Don't necessarily a poor person life hack, but as a student, I used to buy store brand products, and honestly I see it making good financial sense 20 years later. I still buy a large percentage of store brand products and it saves. Story 44. I never keep a balance on a credit card unless it's an emergency, and then it's paid off as a priority. TBF, I'm still pretty poor, not broke though. Story 45. Don't own stuff, keep it simple. More property means more responsibility. Plus it keeps your place nice and tidy. A few decorative pieces, a few plants, real or fake, and you're set. Story 46. I still mostly only shop thrift for clothes and Aldi for food. I can't pay more for things when I know I can get it for less. Even if the money isn't the issue. I also still sew up holes in our clothes until they're beyond repair. I don't throw things out if I don't absolutely have to. Story 47. I take toothbrush from flights, toothbrush, shaving kits and tea bags from hotels. Extra tissues or wet tissues from McDonald's or any other food places keep in bag. Take advantage of all the discounts flying around regardless of how tiny. Story 48. An Uber to the airport is around 30 from my house. I usually still take the train instead for $2.50 unless I'm traveling super early or late in the day. Story 49. Make a batch of rice with most meals. Makes the meal go farther and it's more filling. Rice is pretty cheap and easy to make, especially with a rice cooker. Story 50. I always bring my own thermos of coffee. I buy what coffee is on sale and I always cut it with 25 extra water. I have a warm beverage all morning, I don't get the jitters, and I pay a small fraction of what my coworkers do who stop at a coffee shop. Story 51. Not a poor person hack per se, but cook a roast meat on a Sunday and repurpose for lunches throughout the week. Sandwiches, packet ramen, with a bit of cheese. I usually manage to get to Thursday before I run out. Story 52. Using a veggie chopper before my veggies go bad and freezing them. When I need some, I lay them out to drain excess water. My mom is from Vietnam. She taught me to waste literally nothing. Plus, it's super convenient to have chopped bell peppers, onions, cucumbers, don't freeze those, etc. for stir fries and salads. I never realized how long chopping up ingredients took until I meal prepped. Also, not to mention how much I saved, you can even make spiral veggie noodles with those things. Story 53. I like tech, and every Zoom job interview always had the interviewer asked if I was a professional streamer based on all my equipment, but I used an iPhone 3GS for 13-something years and I would still be using it if it didn't break on me. Story 54. Cars. I bought new in 2006, never again, still in good condition, and I use it to drive when it's just me. My so learned a lot of car maintenance, so keeps it in good running order. Now we have 3 kids and we started saving every penny after the second was born for a bigger car. Just bought a used van and paid cash. Fits our kids well, and the 2006 we use for quick errands and hope to have for our oldest when they turn 16. Story 55. Tactics remain from college days when we didn't have money. I think of creative dishes that I can throw expired or almost expired and I found in the fridge. My wife is a champion in ignoring ingredients she doesn't like or are too much work when she is cooking. I am the king of hiding ingredients in dishes. When she finished her meal I disclose what was in it and how much it was expired or how much I had to cut off from a half-rotten zucchini. Never became ill. Expiry dates are very conservative. If it smells and looks good you are going to be fine. Story 56. I drive an old car, and am driving it into the ground. My wife makes crazy money but also has had periods of not making money for months and months, so we save up as much as we can to ride things out. When someone is making a ton of money it's easy to just want to buy everything, but waiting and being happy with your 2008 Outback is better for your bank account and means more vacations and adventures. And also if hits the fan, you drive a very reliable car and don't have to worry about that sort of fancy stuff. Story 57. A couple of buckets in the shower, then used to flush the toilet, mind you on tank water now, so we don't pay for water, but it makes it go further. Story 58. I save gift cards in case I need them for things like food and gas when I don't have any money. I also pay things in advance in case I don't have money when they are due, even though that's unlikely. If I could afford to just prepay my rent for the whole year, I'd probably do that just to have the security in case I don't have the money on the first of the month, even though I can afford my rent just fine. Story 59. Mac and cheese with tuna and frozen peas. Used to eat a lot of it when I was young and poor, still eat it occasionally now for a quick meal. I call it poor man's casserole. Bonus, my kids always liked it. Story 60. I am still broke, but regardless I put all of my loose change in a jar all the time, save it for hard times. Usually I'm able to get 100 or more out of the jar when I go to exchange it at the Walmart coin machine thing, after it takes out its fee. Currently too broke to even put coins in the jar, but it is what it is. Story 61. Cycling and walking everywhere and taking public transport. Mind you, it's because I like it as well as because I think it's insane to spend $10K a year on a 2-ton gadget to drag my lazy around. Story 62-1. Reusing grocery bags as trash bags. 2. Reusing wide-mouth glass bottles. 3. Using coupons. 4. Keeping just 1 or 2 steaming services active at a time. 5. Freezing lunch for the week. Story 63. In the 70s they had salvage stores. All the canned foods were dented. My mom shopped there when my dad was laid off. Closest thing to that now is Ollie's and Big Lots. But the Big Lots are all closing, I think. Story 64. Wash your hair with a tiny amount of shampoo first, and rinse out. It probably won't lather or feel like it's done anything, but you then only need another small amount to wash. Overall, use far less shampoo. Do the same with conditioner. Use small amount to help squeeze out excess water. Don't rinse, then you don't need a lot of conditioner. Story 65. Toast sandwich for breakfast. 3 slices of cheap bread from the reduced stand, middle slice toasted, salt, pepper and eat. UK bread is fortified, so this gives all your required daily vitamins. Brown wholemeal bread gives pretty much all your roughage too, from the charity Live Below the Line 1 of Food for 5 Consecutive Days initiatives. Story 66. As much as possible, I try to use what I already have instead of buying new stuff. I have these nice wooden salt and pepper grinders from Crate Barrel, bought over 10 years ago. One of them was broken. They were also kind of dusty and dirty. Rather than buy new ones, I fixed the tiny loose screw in the broken one and washed them. They're sitting on my counter now, looking and working as good as the day I bought them. Story 67. I soak the elbow noodles from Kraft Dinner in water all day. They become almost comically huge. If I know I'm going to have Kraft Dinner for dinner at night, I put them in a pot of water before I leave the house that morning. You do need to change the water as it's quite starchy, but it doubles or triples the volume of food you get from a box. I'm not a starving university student anymore, but this is still my favorite way to eat mac cheese. Story 68. Grow and process my own meat, and split about 4 cords of firewood a year. I saw them once as survival. I now see them as a hard-earned prestige that can only come from experience. Story 69. When I'm tempted to buy something that was not planned, I put it on hold for a couple of days and see if I still want it to then. I have usually forgotten about it by then. Story 70. Well, if this counts, but my work serves us breakfast and lunch, so I eat there Monday through Friday, and then my parents insist on me coming over for dinner every night, so I rarely have to cook for myself, which is why I barely have any food in my fridge and cupboards. Story 71. When I finished filling the car with petrol, I still shake the ever-loving out of that mofoing nozzle to get every single last drop out before I take it out and put it back. Story 72. If I'm out and about and fancy something to eat, I just remember you have food at home. You just have to make it, so I've saved 5 several times a week. It's amazing how much money you save when you worry less about convenience. Story 73. Boiling the kettle in the morning, pouring the water into thermos and having tea for the rest of the day without continuing to boil more water than I need. Doesn't save much, but I've been doing this for over a decade. Story 74. Cut bathing soap into 2 before using them. The collective lifetime of both pieces is much more than if I had used it as a single piece. Save the old dish-washing liquid and hand wash liquid bottles. When I open a new bottle, I pour half of it into the new bottle and fill the rest with water. I get 2 bottles for the price of 1. And I actually like it when it is a bit diluted and not very thick. While living in an apartment building, always asking my neighbor whether he is willing to share his Wi-Fi, and I would be willing to split the cost. Use public transport whenever possible. Avoid eating out unless on occasion. Cook by yourself. The savings is beyond imagination. Do not try to win respect by appearances. It is enough that your banker and stockbroker respect you. If you are worth 1 million, your wife should believe your net worth is 750K, your children that it is 500K, your relatives and neighbors that it is, and so on. Story 75. Never throw out leftovers. I will eat the same thing 4 days in a row and structure my menu around eating things that may go bad even though I don't particularly want them. I absolutely abhor throwing any kind of food out. Story 76. On payday I used to take out 10 from the cash point and put in my wallet. Any excess goes in a jar. When I lived on my own it was my emergency fund for the end of the month, so I knew I could eat. Surprising how far you can stretch a tenner. We're talking early 2000s, so obviously went further than it does now. Edit typo.